All right, today we're tackling something really out there. It's a text called the Veda Vigyan Alok, and it takes these ancient Vedic hymns and basically turns them on their head. It suggests, hey, these aren't just prayers, there's something way, way more complex. So let's just jump right into the big question this whole thing is built on. It's a question that really blurs the lines between faith and, well, physics. The idea is, could these ancient hymns actually be hiding scientific secrets? I mean, that's a huge claim, right? And this text, it goes all in on trying to answer it.
And this is where it gets really wild. The central idea, the core thesis of this whole thing, is that what we've always thought of as religious poetry is actually a super sophisticated physics manual, a manual for stars. It's a mind-bending idea for sure. So, okay, let's break down how they even begin to make this argument. Okay, first up, we've got to understand the core mechanism they propose. The text calls them the 5 obstacle-destroying waves. This is really the bedrock of their whole theory. It's their explanation for how these hymns could actually control what's happening inside a star, which, as you know, is a pretty chaotic place. So what are these waves anyway? Well, the text uses a Sanskrit word, rakshagni, which translates to obstacle destroyer. And in this context, it's talking about 5 specific hymn waves that are supposed to neutralize all the crazy destructive forces inside a star. The text even calls it violent electricity. You can almost picture it like some kind of cosmic control panel, keeping everything in check.
And here's how they say it works, step by step. It's a sequence. First, one wave ignites particles, making them glow. Then the next one creates these powerful energy streams. The third one comes in and kind of cleans things up, getting rid of blockages. Wave 4 spreads that fire, that energy, through the whole star. And then finally, the 5th wave gets down to the real business, creating new elements right there in the core. The key takeaway here is that this isn't just a random list of things happening. It's presented as a very specific, ordered, 5-step process to basically manage a star.
Okay, so once you have that 5-wave idea down, the text really zooms out. It builds on that foundation and introduces this massive, unifying metaphor. And that brings us to our next big idea, the star as a cosmic being. This is where things shift from just mechanics to something that sounds, well, almost alive, a kind of biological way of looking at a star.
And right at the center of this whole analogy is one single number, 21. Now, that might just sound like a random number, but trust me, in this system, it's anything but. So, what's the big deal with 21? Well, according to this text, it's the master key. It's what unlocks the entire blueprint of this stellar being.
And the answer is all wrapped up in an analogy. The text draws a parallel between a star and something called a Purusha. That's a Sanskrit word for a cosmic person or a cosmic being. And this cosmic being, this star person, is made up of exactly 21 essential parts. And get this, each one of those parts is directly linked to one of 21 different types of hymn waves that control how it works.
And when you look at how it's broken down, it's actually pretty neat. Right at the center, you've got the Atma, or the soul, which is tied to one hymn, that's the star's essence. Then you have 10 hands, which are linked to 10 hymns that control attraction and holding forces. And finally, you have 10 feet, tied to another 10 hymns, and these handle motion and support. So you've got 1 plus 10 plus 10, and boom, there's your 21 parts.
So let's dig a little deeper into that idea of the hands and feet. That's what this next part is all about, a symphony of forces. We're going to zoom in on these 2 main types of power that this text claims run the whole show inside a star.
And the analogy is actually pretty easy to grasp. You've got the attraction forces, the 10 hands, which are all about grabbing, holding, and pulling stuff together. Think of things like gravity. Then on the other side, you've got the motion forces, the 10 feet. They're in charge of movement, stability, all the things that give the star its structure and keep it moving. It's a really poetic way to talk about that fundamental push and pull that we know governs any celestial body.
And this is maybe the most important part of the whole analogy. The text is very clear that these 21 hymn waves aren't just a random checklist of forces. No, they're meant to work together in perfect harmony, kind of like an orchestra. And altogether, they create a single, complete, functioning star. Every wave has its own part to play in this huge cosmic symphony.
And the text itself really sums up this whole vision with a pretty powerful line. It says, "Thus, with these 21 hymn group waves, the entire Purusha-like star is refined." And that word refined is so important here. It's not just built or created. Refined suggests a process of making something perfect, of bringing beautiful order out of total chaos. And it's all supposedly directed by the secret code hidden in these hymns.
So look, after going through this really unique kind of complex system, we're left with a much bigger question, aren't we? It's not really about whether this specific theory is right or wrong. It's more about what it represents. How do we interpret ancient wisdom in our modern scientific world? It really makes you think about all the different ways, all the different languages people have used throughout history to try and understand the universe. It's a pretty fascinating way to look at things, and for sure, it gives you a lot to chew on. Thanks for joining me for this one.